gonna work. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I want to start off in the middle. And that's when we were given a B-24 and said, go to Italy. Showed up at the airplane. Ground crew said, you should have been here yesterday when it came in. Piloted by 3 young ladies from the Ford factory. Anyway, okay. Like this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Little engineering here. Anyway, we got the airplane and went to Italy. I'm not going to talk about that trip because it would take too long. We landed in a place called Goya, which I cannot find on the map today, but it was in the south of Italy, and it was the main maintenance base for most of the 15th Air Force. We landed, and we were instructed to put the airplane in such and such revetment, and be sure to take everything of personal because you're not going to see this airplane anymore. And all this time going over, we thought that was our airplane. Like the movies, they always flew on the same airplane, painted such and such. But they were right, we never saw it again. So we got a parachute bag and our B-4 bag, and we started heading for operations, which meant that we had to cross the runway. And I looked out and I saw a speck, so I said, hold up, somebody's on final. Sure enough, he got closer. He didn't look right. Only had one tail. The left-hand tail assembly, both horizontal and vertical, was sheared at the airplane, missing. The right wing tip was gone, 6 or 8 feet worth was gone. Number 4 engine was feathered. Number 2 engine was missing. It was not on the airplane. And I'm looking all around, where is the emergency vehicles? Why aren't the sirens going? And nobody was paying any attention. He just come in and landed in front of us, taxied off. And I thought, holy smokes, if that's normal, what's an emergency? But, I know. About the second or third trip, I wanted to refer to my logbook, but as it so happens, my logbook is being rebound because all the binding went to pieces, so I didn't get to check it for sure. However, it was a very early trip, and I remember the officer in the briefing room saying, you're lucky guys, this is going to be a milk run. It's only going to go up as far as the Po Valley, and besides, the Po Valley is going to be fogged in. We're going to be bombing on the lead radar. And besides that even, it's known that there's only 8 guns down there that can reach your altitude. And they can't see you. Well, we got in sight of the flight ahead of us that was on the bomb run, and sure enough, you could count 8 bursts all at once. It was obvious that they somehow synchronized the shells, and they were right on target. airplane went this way, airplane went that way. Second round, some more airplanes went. Then it was our turn to turn on the IP and make our bomb run. Right at the IP, 2 airplanes left the foot. Now they bombed one squadron at a time, which was 7 airplanes. And so now there was 5. Of course, I was new. I was in either the tail end, but we went down the bomber. Next round of shells, 2 more left. Now I'm a little bit out of proper distance, so I made sure that I was going to get in tight, because that's what they always said, get in tight so you'll get a good bomb pattern. And so I did. Now, when you're flying one airplane right close to another airplane, you don't look anywhere except that airplane, because the co-pilot's handling all details. And I was staring at this airplane, and the next round of 8 came, and that airplane disappeared in a red ball. Possibly his own gas tanks, his own bomb bay went off as well. But that was that. Now there's only 2 of us out of 7. And the other guy, he said, he opened the mic and said, you better lead, because this is only my 9th mission. So I said, well, it's only my 2nd or 3rd, but I said, stay where you are, I'll follow you. And he says, but we don't have a bomb sight. And typically, only the lead and a deputy lead would have a bomb sight. I said, that's fine, I don't either. Tell your bombardier to guess. And when you look down on the cloud tops, you could see where the previous bombs were hitting. So anyway, the other guy, he dropped his bombs, and we did, and then it was routine to descend and turn quickly so that you're out of the range of the guns, theoretically. Well, that was fine. We're going home now. And something happened, and my electric heated suit started running away. I reached over and turned the knob. It wasn't enough. I turned it again. And it's obviously running away because I'm really hot. And I yanked the thing out of the wall. And it still got hotter. That was ruined my perception of myself as a cool dude. And I tell you, today even, I get reruns of that airplane disappearing. It was there, complete. 1 second later, all it was a big blinding flash and then nothing. And 10 people gone.
But you know what? You was over there just a little bit before I was, because I never had all that, but I got, on my last mission, I come close to getting killed.
Oh.
And the war ended that last mission.
Oh, good.
Bullet missed me. It made a hole about that big around in the waist gunner. And it was right here. And I was scared.
Yeah,
So we got home and
I admit that. It affected me.
everything you're saying, I can see
Yeah.
it.
Well, another interesting mission. We were arming something in the area of Bulgaria, over that area, and we're coming back. Everything is good, because you still want to be in formation, because there might be a fighter around. And all of a sudden, it was a number 2 engine, number 2 prop governor failed, and it went to flat pitch, and of course it headed toward the sky, the RPM, and I grabbed the throttle, pulled it off as the co-pilot hit the feather button, because they told us that if it got above 3,000 feet, the engine would just blow up. Not feet, 3,000 RPM, the engine would blow up. Well, now there we're in formation. Can't stay with formation anymore, even with max power for the other 3. And I thought, well, maybe I can stay underneath the formation, and the radar won't be able to tell that we're a straggler. Well, we started down so that little by little we stayed underneath. The navigator called up and said, "Skipper, this rate of descent will not take us over the mountains on the coastline." And of course, our side wasn't until after the coastline anyway, out by Vis. Everybody who flew up in there knows what Vis was. It was an island that the Germans didn't take, and it was wonderful to have that in your hip pocket. And so, okay, I decided that it was important that we stay with the formation somehow. And the other 3 were running at maximum continuous power. Oh, I told the co-pilot, I said, unfeather the thing and let it run up, but then hit the feather button before it hits 3,000, and then bring it back down, and then undo the feather, and so forth. And I put the throttle to the wall, and sure enough, we came back. We really had 4 engines. Of course, it was a terrible noise because it was going up and down, not very synchronized with the others. And but we were able to rejoin the formation until we got to the shoreline, and then we just feathered it and come home. And that was lucky. I was playing with fire because those feather pumps were not designed to run continually. And the possibility of the feather pump failing, which meant then there would be no control. Then I'd have to slow down to almost stop to prevent runaway. That was another little interesting trip.
Veterans, they love this.
One other time, and that was coming out from the Yugoslavia area for someplace we would bomb, I don't remember. But all of a sudden, the oil pressure on one engine went to nothing. So we quickly feathered that. There is a reserve for feathering, but you don't want to wait too long because the hole might be in that reserve area. When we got home, we found out that it wasn't in the reserve area at all. It was in the oil cooler. There was a .30 caliber bullet hole through it. We never found out what or who produced that .30 caliber, and how high can a .30 caliber rifle go? And when did it happen? It may have happened on takeoff. But that's now. All things weren't always bad. We found time when we were not flying to do other things that wasn't wartime. Of all things, my bombardier and I loved to shoot, target shoot. And we were hunters before, and we out-traded people for firearms. We each had a .30 carbine. We each had the 6mm rifle of the Italian army. At one time, we also had a Thompson, but finding .45 ammo was hard. They didn't like to release that with some little excuse that we could find. But anyway, we also out-traded two 303 British rifles from the British. And this was in our OSS base down in Brindisi. And there was the British detachment there as well. And the British was flying Wellingtons and the big 4-engine Lancaster. Incidentally, the Lancaster was flown by one pilot, no co-pilot, no place for a co-pilot. And when they would have a problem coming back to land, they might blow tire, as simple as that, and skid off. And all they did was come out and make sure that it wasn't blocking the runway, and they left it there. And maybe later on they might need a part, and they would go salvage it off that airplane. But we discovered that their guns, they had 4 303 British machine guns to each turret. And the turret guns were all filled. So my bombardier and I would go out there and climb up in there and get a belt out, put it over our shoulder, and attempt to get it back to the billet. And occasionally we'd have to pull a link and leave half of it there to come back for it. And then at nighttime we'd undo all the belt, and we had ammunition. And we'd go out by the shoreline, the Adriatic shoreline, and we had almost a mile northwest of us was a jetty that at one time had something out on the end, but all that was left was a rusting pieces of steel coming out of the concrete. And we'd take turns. We'd lay down, very carefully aim, and fire an armor-piercing, because that would make a flash when it hit it. And the one not shooting would give directions of which way to aim from then on. And we were able to satisfy our hobby and release, as I thought of it. Anyway, I have to say I'm proud of my military, and I'm convinced that I helped shorten the war. And however, I also am very proud of what I'm doing now. I fly angel flights. My first was in February of '05, and Saturday, a week ago, did my 454th. And thank you. How many do not know what angel flight is? Oh, there's some hands. That is a group of pilots who agreed to donate their time and their airplane, either their own airplane or one that they rent, for the purpose of taking a passenger from their home area to a remote medical facility. Now, most of our passengers are on a clinical trial. And as you probably know, every little nook and cranny of the country doesn't do clinical trials. They're only in separate places, such as the Cleveland Clinic, so we take them. We go to the little airport next to where they live, and of course they don't have to have all of the check-in, and if there are any frisking to do with the passengers, I do it. We have had as young as not yet 1 year old to in their 80s, and every one of those flights is a story. And Nevin, everybody knows Nevin. He's been my co-pilot for the last 10 years. I have approximately 29,500 hours logged, and of all the co-pilots I've had in the 35 years I flew airline, but Nevin has occupied my cabin, my cockpit, more than any other one person.
It's an honor.
Well, there's one last little thing I'd like to tell you, and this is interesting because I've not liked the FAA ever since they invented the age 60 rule. That's when you can't fly anymore. You somehow can't fly. So I try to get something out of the ordinary on my birthday. One time, what was it? 2015, Nevin and I decided to fly around the country, the perimeter of the country, to generate interest in volunteer flying, angel flight in particular. And I was in the middle of that. I turned 92. Is that right? Yes. And other years I've had different kinds of trips, intentionally. One, let's see, last year, the 8 days of my birthday, with my birthday in the middle of that 8 days. No, 7 days. We had 8 angel flights completed. And one time, the manager of the airport has a TBM 850, which is a very luxury airplane. And he asked me if I wanted to go with him on my birthday, which I did, since I couldn't get one myself. And we did 5 angel flights in one day. And this year, there was none available on my birthday. So Nevin says, well, as a last ditch, how would you like to go someplace and get that you haven't been, and get a Reuben sandwich? We both like Reuben sandwiches. And I said, okay. Where? He says, I am not going to tell you. And he says, are you willing to take off and not know where you're going? Well, that's something new. I mean, it's almost like you're undressed. No flight planning. I said, well, are we going to have enough fuel? He says, yes. I said, okay. So, come birthday, we go out to the airport, and I said, which way at least? And he says, well, kind of easterly. So we took off a Luray, turned east. And finally he had to give me the location, because I got to communicate that to the ATC. So it was Georgetown, Delaware. Oh, that's right. I remember that. That does have a little cafe right there. And later, as we got closer, he says, do you know anybody that lives around here? And I thought, Tom Creekmore. He was a radio operator on B-17, and about the same age as I am. And I said, is he going to be there? Is he coming over? He said, yeah, he'll be there. And so it was a nice day, clear day, and we came across the top of the airport, picked up downwind, and he says, now make it nice. You might be showing up on a newsreel. And sure enough, we taxied off, and there's all kinds of reporters and so forth. Tom had arranged for a party at the airport, but it was Nevin that started it all. Now, I didn't get to be flying on my birthday with a passenger. I mean, with a angel flight passenger. But I did have Nevin. And now, Nevin's birthday is on Monday. We go home on Monday, so Nevin's going to be flying on his birthday. Do I hear happy birthday, Nevin?
Happy birthday, Nevin.
Thank you.